Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Robbins Racing TV. You're joining me here in a very wet Zuhai circuit. As you can see from the flashes of light and the horizontal rain, we're set for thunderstorms tonight in the Robbins Racing Touring Car Championship, and this is definitely going to make it a spicy one. We are, of course, in the Guangdong province in China's south coast, and it looks as though it's monsoon season here. Going to be very tricky for all of these drivers out on track. A few of them trying to get the setups home, trying to find out where the puddles are going to be. Both sessions are set to be wet, with thunderstorms sporadic through both of the races this evening. So certainly going to push our drivers to their very limits. Currently joining us with 4 minutes remaining inside tonight's first practice session. Of course, in the Robbins Racing Touring Car Championship, 2 separate practice sessions, and then we'll be joined by 2 10-minute qualifications. The sprint race for tonight, of course, being 10 laps, and then a 30-minute race for our feature. So as we get settled in, let's have a little bit of a run through the league standings as they are after race 2 at Rapuna Park last weekend, which was full of drama. Stealth Sheep is currently topping the table on 120 points, with That Qatar Dude in second place on 115, and Amobi right behind them in third place on 112 points. Got a slight gap then to fourth place, which is Uniclark on 85 points, and then we actually are sad to announce our first major retiree for the season, Thorsten Schmidt, who was sat in 5th position, unfortunately due to work commitments, unable to complete the rest of this touring car championship, so he's retired. That now puts Kay Morse into 5th place with 70 points, and Bobby Dazzler then sits alongside him in joint 5th on 70 points. Lightblade, after a couple of disappointing races, he's actually sat in 7th place on 61. Lionsfoot then, our lead coordinator, is just behind him on 52 points, with Kovkarl right up his rear on 51. We've then got Lecky sat behind Kovkarl on 48, with Trotty and Evan at the foot of the table. As I mentioned earlier, plenty of drama to unfold, I'm sure. Remember, ladies and gents, that new for this season, track limits will be turned off for the sprint race. So first race, track limits will be disabled, and then in tonight's feature they will be re-enabled. However, all of those that are familiar with the way that Project Cars 2's race director is set up, track limits will be a little bit more liberal in wet weather conditions, so we'll have to wait and see what an impact it has, and whether or not these guys are able to keep it out on track. So it looks as though 147s are the time to aim for at the moment. We're not going to see much of a movement in terms of track temperatures, no matter how much this day progresses, I don't think, in these sort of conditions, so expect qualification to be around about the same, perhaps a little bit quicker as these guys get used to the track and used to where the puddles are forming. So, 1 minute remaining of the practice session. I've got a few interesting statistics coming up from how the season's progressed so far. 4 different winners in our 2 races. Of course, 2 races per evening. So, that lies with Demobi, Stealth Sheep, That Qatar Dude and Uniclark all getting 1 win each throughout all of this. Interesting as well that pole position has been granted to Lightblade on 3 of those occasions, unable to make the podium though. Able to make the podium but unable to win in any of those races, so he'll be looking to try and make an improvement in these wet weather conditions. I'm sure he'll have been practicing, hoping to try and get himself up that table and challenge Demobi for his triple championship attempt. So 15 seconds remaining inside this practice session, then we will be jumping straight into the qualification. Looks as though a few of the boys inside the pits now for the last part of this session. Let's have a look at what Stealth Sheep's doing, our current championship leader. Currently sat in third in the timing boards in the practice session. Doesn't look as though he's going to improve this time around, although he has had a very quick sector 1 compared to the rest of the field last time around. We'll see how that one progresses. As we hear those rumbles of thunder in the background. Going to be a very disruptive race. It's going to be hard to track anybody that spins, but I will do my best for you. Potentially running with the map on tonight just to try and keep an eye out on where all of the boys are and any people that might have been led astray. J Palm joining us on the stream tonight. He's already recognised how difficult this one's going to be. We'll have to wait and see just how skilled these guys are, J Palm, but hopefully they're going to put on a heck of a show and show what weather driving can be achieved when you're inside these touring cars. Just following K Morse around the track at the moment, he's definitely going to have his work cut out inside that BMW. Let's hope he's got that set up, worked hard for wet weather conditions. Of course, going to be very tail happy. The rest of the field opting for the Renault Megane. But of course, front wheel drive. I think K Morse as well, his added benefit of getting off the line a lot quicker than the rest of the field is going to be negated inside this inside these conditions on this track. But we will have to wait and see. So that is the free practice session over, the first one of the evening. Lightblade currently topping out that chart with 147.4 and Demobi just behind him with only 12 tenths difference. But let's see what happens when it counts as we go into the first of our qualification sessions for the evening. And that'll be coming up very shortly. Let's see who's going to be first out. It looks as though it was Lightblade, I think, that livery. Let's have a look here. No, it's his co-partner. Same liveries, just a different set of wing mirror tips. Looks as though Lecky's looking to get out early as well, as, in fact, most of the field, all of them fighting for that track position. Came also out. Let's have a look. I think it may well have been Uniclark. That's in that blue and white livery, similar to Lightblade's. It is indeed, with the red mirrors. So he's out on track first. We'll track him around the track. Out on his outlap, of course, at the moment. One of our relatively new drivers also joining us on the stream. Good evening, Jack. He's saying that it's the best track conditions will be at the start of qualifying, similar to those practice laps. So he's edging his bets that pole position will be determined in the first couple of laps. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, only 10 minutes of qualifying, so these boys don't get much time out on track and have to do everything that they can as quick as they can. Whilst we're out on this outlap, I'll give you a little bit of information that I have got on the Zuhai circuit. It is actually China's first custom-made permanent circuit, finished in 1996, designed by the same people that designed the Adelaide GP circuit. So they know what they're doing when they're designing a track, and it is a great one for door-to-door action, plenty of overtaking opportunities. Although they might be squashed a little bit inside these conditions. We'll have to wait and see when we get all 13 cars out on track. And as promised, let's bring on the map for the evening. We can try and track where these guys are out on track, whether or not they're going to encounter any sort of traffic. At the moment, Uniclark has got it plain sailing. Plenty of space in front of him and plenty of space behind him, so he's not going to encounter any upcoming traffic to try and put him off. Interesting Lecky still sat inside the pit box. Only 7 minutes remaining inside this session, so he's not going to have much time to get his lap set. Is this a tactic where he's going to just try and start at the back and avoid any of the action? We'll have to wait and see. Does quite often make a late dash out of the pits with only a couple of minutes remaining. I do know for a fact that he's had plenty of practice in these sort of conditions. He's been tracking the weather reports for most of the week, and it's been well documented that it's going to be a wet one. I think it was on Sunday evening that the thunderstorms crept in, and word got around that it's potentially going to have some thunder and lightning for tonight's session, so I think that's when his thorough practice began. So looking at the sector times, Domobi's currently leading in sector 1, but he is closely followed by Stealth Sheep. Only a couple of hundredths separating those at the moment, but Domobi's just set a purple sector 2 as well, so expect to see him on the top spot when he finally crosses the line. Uniclark's just about to come across though, and it's a 1:48 from him. Let's have a look over at what Domobi's doing. He's currently got some, I think that might be Lion's Foot in front of him for company. He may be able to pull off a little bit of a draft from him. I think Lion's Foot there able to carry enough speed to not disrupt him, but Stealth Sheep goes top at the moment. Domobi about to cross the line. Let's have a look where it's going to land him. And it is enough for top spot with a 1:46.9, so really quick lap there from Domobi. Obviously relishing in these wet weather conditions. Stealth Sheep currently sat in second place though, with Lightblade third, and it looks as though K Morse is facing the wrong way. He's going to have to give it a couple of in fact he returns to the pits. I was going to say he's going to have to give it a second or two, wait for those cars to go past. Let's have a look at the rest of them. So Bobby Dazzler currently out on a hot one, I think. Sector time's not looking too great, so actually I do beg your pardon, it may well be an outlap. Lecky has finally left the pit box as well. He's now out on track. 5 minutes remaining of the session, so he's going to be able to get at least a couple of laps in, I think, as he just comes past the halfway point. You see Lion's Foot there picking up a little bit of dirt inside those wheel arches. That is going to affect the drivers when they return back onto track, where the loss of grip just added on to the loss of grip from any standing water and the wet track conditions. So 4 minutes remaining of the session. Let me know your predictions for this one. Is it going to be Domobi who tops out this qualification spot in our sprint race, or are we going to have a repeat of last week where Lightblade comes from absolutely nowhere and steals the show? Just looking at the sector times at the moment, doesn't look as though there's that much in it between the top three. Lightblade actually now leapfrogging over Stealth Sheep to go into second place, and we are talking margins of less than a tenth between the sectors of these guys as we see Domobi return to the pit. So that's both first and second place provisionally at the moment into the pit. Stealth Sheep doing enough to get himself in there. Looks as though he's gone in for either some fuel or some damage repairs. His car looks spotless, so I'm guessing it is just coming in for fuel. Obviously running low fuel loads just to try and get as much as he can out of the corners from this one. Lightblade now though going green in sector 1, and he's 31 hundredths off the purple sector 1 of Domobi, I think. So really, really close sector times coming in from all of the top three, really. No margin for error at all when it comes to these final couple of laps. 3 minutes remaining of the session. All drivers now setting a lap. Lecky's currently sat at the bottom, but I do think that one's an outlap. Let's have a flick over to our former league coordinator here in the RRTCC. Let's see how he's getting on. Sector times look as though they're improving. He's gone green in sector 1, but we'll have to wait and see how 2 and 3 pans out. Did look as though he was losing a little bit of speed from that. 7 seconds up, so that looks as though it's going to get him around about the top 10 at least. We'll have to wait and see how he deals with the final sector. Around about 2 seconds off the pace of the leaders though in sector 2. It may well be enough for a 8th, 7th, maybe even 6th spot. We'll have to wait and see. Let's flick on back over to Lightblade, track him around the track. He is just about to come over and set his latest Sector 1 time. Interestingly, Demobi has come out, he's done one lap and then he's returned back to the pits. That is, of course, after his out lap, and Lightblade, they're going really wide, getting that braking line all sorts of wrong, and that's going to cost him one more lap. He's only going to have one lap to challenge Demobi, I think, after this one. Demobi feeling confident, still sat inside the pits. Stealth Sheep is only 400ths away, or less than 400ths away. So my maths is letting me down, just over 400ths away from the second spot of Lightblade. Let's see whether or not Stealth Sheep can get into that front row. I think it's going to be a crucial position. Of course, with the amount of spray that's going to be coming up from any car in front of you, you're going to want a little bit of clear air, so the front row is definitely going to benefit. And as soon as they fall into the racing line, of course, all of that benefit goes to whoever gets out the blocks quickest and sits in that first place spot. So less than a minute to go. Pressure is now on. All of the guys now setting 150s or better, so just over 3 seconds is separating first and 12th place at the moment. I'm sure that'll come down by the end of these laps. So Lightblade's about to cross the line. He's going to get one more shot at it. It's not going to be the quickest this time around. However, he did go green in Sector 3, so he managed to pull that one around. Perhaps just hone it up on his Sector 3 line there, making those improvements. Let's have a look at what Stealth Sheep's up to. Got good pace around there, but I think any improvement is going to be marginal. Across the line, and it's actually slower this time around. So that is our qualifying session over with. I think we've got 3 more vehicles able to set a lap. It looks as though we've got Evan still out on a lap at the moment. We have also got a car in front of him. Have a quick check on the boards. It may well be Uniclark actually. No, Uniclark is currently in the pits. Let's see where Evan can do as he crosses the line. And it's no improvement from him, so it's going to have to be 9th place. In fact, it is going to have to be 9th place. I think the only car remaining out on track on a hot one may well be Lecky. I'm not too sure though. Maybe I'll just be trying to get in that. But he is putting down some pace here. Yep, time is registered, so Lecky's still out on a lap. Lionsfoot is also out on a lap, and I think Stealth Sheep. So the 3 cars still out on, able to set an improvement. Lecky looks as though he's fallen short in Sector 2 though. Let's have a wait and see whether or not his Sector 3 is enough to help him up that leaderboard. An improved grid position off the start of this one. Keep an eye out on the guys that are still out on pit. Looks as though Lecky unable to make an improvement, as is Lionsfoot. Let's have a look at Stealth Sheep though. Stealth Sheep able to just leapfrog over Lightblade, claiming second place there off the line. So Demobi tops with a pole position. That is going to be a bonus point to Demobi with a 146.9. Stealth Sheep gets enough on that final lap to sit him alongside him on the front row. Lightblade gets pushed down into 3rd with Kovkarl in 4th. Great qualification there from Kovkarl. That Qatar dude, he has to settle for 5th place. K Moore struggling in that BMW a little bit. He lands himself in 6th place. Uniclark gets alongside Lionsfoot in 7th and 8th, with Evan in 9th, Tro in 10th, and then Lecky and Bobby Dazzler at the back of the grid. We're going to have a couple of minutes for these guys to set up the cars, and then we're going to be underway for tonight's first race of the evening. As you can see, it looks as though the thunder has eased off just for a little bit Forecast with rain, but checking on the radar pictures, looks as though we are still due a storm. So we'll have to wait and see when that comes in. Of course, if you're watching us here for the first time or for the 100th time, and you're not yet a part of this wonderful racing community, get yourselves on over to www.rubbinsracing.co.uk. On our website you'll find plenty of information about what we do, and you'll also find the link to our Discord and get yourself signed up. Alternatively, if you're on the PlayStation 4, you can have a search for Rubbins Racing inside your PSN friends list. Get that added there, and you'll also find our community once you've become a friend of Rubbins Racing on your PlayStation 4. So just a few seconds for these guys to make their final adjustments to the setups, put enough fuel in. We are set for 10 laps in the first sprint race of the evening, and then it is, as I mentioned earlier, going to be 30 minutes of racing for tonight's feature. So you can try and track the action. I will enable the map just so you can see who makes any mistakes. Keep an eye out for any cars straying off that racing line or off the track. 20 seconds remaining for the rest of the drivers. Just getting that word through from the race director. So get prepared for the lights and we'll get this wet race underway. Here come the lights, ladies and gents. Who is going to get a good start? Are we going to see a blast away from K Morse? Looks as though it's a relatively steady start there. Demobi potentially struggling to get off the line. Perhaps it's just my view. He goes defensive, but K Morse goes all the way around the outside. That BMW getting plenty of advantage. He goes into first place, into turn one. And it looks as though Lightblade there getting caught up and pushed down the order. Yeah, he's actually dropped down to 9th, so he's not going to be happy about that. Lightblade. K Morse runs a little bit wide onto that curve. That's given him a loss of traction and giving Demobi enough of a chance to take back what he had at the start of the race. So currently sat with Demobi, with K Morse in second. Kovkarl managing to maintain his position, in fact gaining one place because of the slightly bunkered down start from Lightblade. Let's have a look at the rest of the field. It looks as though all of them have managed to get away pretty clean. Now I've got one driver that has seemingly retired. I wonder if that's a disconnect. We'll try and have a look at who that is, but I beg your pardon, I think it might be me. Bit of a brain fart there. Senior moment. Looks as though we've had a car off though. Is that Evan? It looks as though it is. Yep, it is indeed. In the pink Actual Vision livery. Finds himself at the back of the grid. K Morse is managing to maintain second place at the moment, as we see Stealth Sheep there eager to get past Kovkarl, struggling for it though. Let's jump into the chase cam and get a better view of the action. So we jump on the chase of Stealth Sheep as he's hunted down Kovkarl. Hampered vision, of course, as he has to run onto the grass. It looked as though Kovkarl's car was trying to snatch itself away from him though. And Stealth Sheep able to benefit from the grass, able to maintain grip when he entered. Re-entered the track, but it hasn't been enough when it came into the next corner. He's going to have to give that place back. Kovkarl takes it from him once again. Let's from trackside aboard this action, try and get a view of the guys at the back. Plenty of spray kicking up here. And that's only going to get worse when these weather conditions get worse. So Demobi has opened up a 0.7 gap now to the second place of K Morse. Then sat just less than 3 seconds behind them. We've got Kovkarl and Stealth Sheep battling it out with that Guitar Dude also getting into the fray. That Guitar Dude had a fantastic week last week. And he's looking to try and build upon that. However, Lightblade coming back from 9th place looks as though he's managed to get himself up amongst the top 5, and it looks as though he's about to challenge the 4th place of Kovkarl. Oh no, he hits him in the rear. Hits him in the rear, and that puts Kovkarl deep into the grass. And Kofkal falls right back down the order. Let's have a look at where he comes out. He's managed to get himself back out into 9th place behind Bobby Dazzler. So it looks... Oh, I beg your pardon, it wasn't Lightblade. I think my telemetry playing tricks on me there. Could have sworn it said LIG just behind him. It may well have been Uniclark in 6th position. We'll have to wait and see with any stewards inquiries that come in there, but Kofkal will be furious about that. Hit up the rear, puts him off the track and pushes him right back down to 9th place, as we see Bobby Dazzler there getting very sideways in the background. And we also saw Evan struggling to try and contain that pink Renault, getting it back onto track. Looks as though he's managed all right, and Evan actually moving up the order now. He sits in 11th place above Tro. So let's get back into the action between 4th place. So Lek now looks as though he's going to be trying to challenge that guitar dude pretty soon, as we see Stealth Sheep struggling for grip. In fact, most of the field struggling for grip on that corner. Just coming out of turn 3, of course, really tight left-hander at 90 degrees. Make any mistakes on that, get any sort of understeer, it's going to put you over the sides. And you can see there the gap that Demobi is pulling out ahead of K Morse at the moment is getting bigger and bigger. I'm pretty sure that Demobi will soon settle into preservation mode. He'll start to slow his pace down and just make sure that no mistakes cause any heartache for him. Had a couple of really unfortunate races last week around that Rapuna Park GP circuit. I think tagged twice, once right on the finish line to deny him the win, and then once mid-race through the now retired Thorsten Schmidt. Sorry to see Thorsten Schmidt go, but it was an uncharacteristic mistake from him that actually put Demobi right down the order, potentially with a little bit of damage. Just to remind folks as well, damage is turned to full for these races. So any mistakes made, especially when it comes to colliding with walls or cars, is going to cost them. As we see Lion's Foot there getting all sorts of sloppy. He's actually gone all the way off the track, and it looks as though Tro has joined him. He's managed to recover. I think Evans also had a mistake, because he sat around about 3 seconds behind the 11th place of Lion's Foot. Unlucky for our Irishman there. Hopefully he'll be able to get himself up amongst the order. 6 laps remaining in this treacherous sprint race here at the Zuhai GP circuit. Demobi though more than equal to it. Let's have a look at how well he's controlling this car around this wet track. So previous lap setting in 148.4. The only person who's matching that is Stealth Sheep in terms of the pace. But Stealth Sheep, of course, sat over 4 seconds behind our current race leader. So he's got a lot of work to do in the remaining 5.5 laps. Let's jump back down to the action. Looks as though we've got plenty going on between 4th, 5th and 6th as Uniclark looks to try and get past Lecky. Lecky goes defensive, closes that door on Uniclark, and Uniclark having to just lift off and come again to fight another day. We've got a big train of cars though here. Let's jump into the chase cam. Hopefully we'll be able to see through the spray to get a hold of this action. Uniclark's going to try and get on the attack once again. It looks as though Lecky's able to get the drive out of that corner, so he's not going to be challenged down the straight. We'll have to wait and see what happens through this tricky right-hander. Hard to keep hold of your line in these sort of conditions. Usually flat, so long as you get the line right. Not today though, I don't think. Plenty of lifting, perhaps even some braking depending on which line you're currently sat at. And it looks as though K Morse, and Lecky, we see there getting his, locking his wheels, just end up understeering off the track, and that's going to gift the place to Uniclark. Uniclark now into 5th position, Lecky down in 6th, with Lightblade soon to be chasing him. Let's have a look at K Morse as he pirouettes around the track. K Morse is going to lose out big here. We've got a whole host of traffic behind him. Is he going to come out in 7th place? He's not. In fact, he may well lose out to a little bit more. Let's have a look. Bobby Dazzler now coming onto the approach. He's going to have to be careful as he re-enters the track. Yep, he loses out to Bobby Dazzler as well. So K Morse rejoins the track in 8th position. He was previously 4th. Unfortunate for him. Let's have a look. Further up the top though, we'll jump over to 6th place. Hopefully that'll give us a good view of what's going on behind him. So Demobi has now opened up a 3.3 second lead at the front. We're then 2 seconds back to that guitar dude who looks as though he's putting in consistent 149s along with the rest of the leaders. So the pace now showing. Oh, as we see Lightblade there losing the rear end, catching it magnificently. However, Bobby Dazzler is now on the hunt, managing to maintain that momentum, and he's going to look to him around the outside under the braking zone. Is he going to look for a cutback? I doubt it in these sort of conditions. Let's see whether or not he's got the drive. He comes right up onto his rear bumper, and he may well have the draft on this next straight. In fact, it looks as though he's going to go place himself around the outside, darts onto the inside, tries to hold the inside line. It's not going to work this time around. He actually catches a load of grass, managed to keep it onto the track though. Twitchy bum moments from Bobby Dazzler, but he manages to maintain both his track position and his momentum, not losing out too much. As we see that guitar dude unfortunately disconnected. He was having a great race as well. So that's now gifted 3rd place to Uniclark. Uniclark currently sat in 3rd place, 6 laps through at the moment, 4 laps remaining in tonight's first sprint race. Let's have a look. We've got a bit of action here with the seemingly damaged Cov Carl and the 8th place Lions Foot. Of course, any sort of suspension damage in these wet conditions causing you to over or understeer. Usually understeer in these front wheel drive cars. That is not going to help whatsoever, but it looks as though he's doing a sterling job at the moment. The 9th place Cov Carl, he obviously had bags of pace, judging from how he was able to hold his position on track and his qualification time. So he's up the inside, gives Lionsfoot there a little touch, and it looks as though he's passed him over. That Lionsfoot won't be happy that he hasn't given that place back up. But Lionsfoot back onto the attack now. Is he going to have a look up the inside? Looks as though he might. Don't think he's got enough momentum though to carry him through. Cov Carl now pulling out a few car lengths, gap in front of him. So it looks as though that space is safely Cov Carl's, although maybe I spoke too soon. Looks as though there has been a lift-off. Perhaps that's Cov Carl giving the place back as we see a flash of lights there in recognition from Lionsfoot. Cov Carl perhaps just waiting for a safe space to allow Lionsfoot to give that position back after a little nudge up the rear. Let's have a look what's going on in 3rd place. Looks as though Lecky's managed to get himself soon to be challenging the podium, provisional podium spot of Stealth Sheep. Looks to be quite far away at the moment. Around about 2 seconds is the gap, so not sure why it's giving me that warning that we've got close action. I'll tell you where we have got close action though, and that is the fight for 5th, it seemed. Bobby Dazzler currently chasing down Lightblade for that 5th position. Looks as though we got that throttle on a little bit wrong, and that has allowed Lightblade to pull away, unless it's just a change in the setup of the car, or a difference in the setup of the car, should I say. Let's have a look at Cov Carl. Oh, I think we've just joined in right at the wrong place. Looked as though he'd gotten a little bit too familiar with that right-hand wall coming out of that really tricky left to quick right section. Lost a bit of time on Lionsfoot. However, as we've seen, he's able to make that up when it comes into the braking zones, it seems. Cov Carl just nailing his braking to try and make up the positions. He will try and rejoin this action. However, let's have a look what's going on in 6th place. K Morse obviously having that huge spin earlier on. Looks as though he's managing to maintain 6th position now. Bobby Dazzler's trying to get onto the back of him. Big gap into 5th, around about 10 seconds between the 6th place of K Morse and 5th place of Lightblade at the moment. And it looks as though Kay Morse just needs to bring this one home, keep that track on the straight and narrow, and he'll be finding his way into a top 10 position. Of course, only 11 drivers remaining in this race, so we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully we will get that Qatar dude back for the feature race tonight. His connection just letting him down a little bit. Bobby Dazzler looks as though he's pulling alongside. Kay Morse, we can see that back end twitching all over him when it comes to that straight. Plenty of puddles there. And that huge puddle on the left-hand side. If anybody tries to do that wide line, I guarantee they're going to find a wall. All drivers need to be cautious of that coming out of turn 2. And it looks as though Bobby Dazzler is able to breeze past Kay Morse. Kay Morse able to take that track position back, though. Bobby Dazzler just messing up his line on that tricky corner. That corner is going to catch out a lot of drivers tonight. I am positive of it. Well, let's have a look at the current battle for second place. We've got Uniclark sat in second. Stealth Sheep is hunting him down and getting ever closer. So just over a second separates these two guys at the moment. And we'll see when it comes out of the corners. They do get pretty darn close to each other. We'll wait and see what transpires over this one. Stealth Sheep will be hungry for that position. Remember, folks, he is currently sat top of the leaderboard inside the RRTCC. And he'll be looking to make sure he doesn't drop any points and take away any hope that Damobi has of a triple back-to-back championship winners. We see Uniclark there getting all sorts of sideways. Car just wanting to spit him out. It's still tracking left and right, crabbing all over the place. Is he gonna hold it? Looks as though a little bit of braking ruined it. I thought he was going to carry it all the way through, but that put Stealth Sheep into second place. Unlucky Uniclark fought admirably there to try and keep his car on the track, but unfortunately the rain just prevailing. Interestingly as well, we've got Lightblade currently sat in fourth place, so he's had a yo-yo of a race in the sprint today. Been down the back of the grid, he's then managed to recover his way back up. Obviously, as we saw there, just making good use of the track limits being turned off. Nipping out a little bit of apex there. Cheeky of him, but when it comes down to tonight's feature, I can imagine that the race director's going to punish him for any moves like that, as we see him getting a little bit of grass, looking to get away with it, but he manages to get the power down nice and quick. And he seems to be pulling away from Lecky in fifth place, although that lead is now diminishing, maybe just spinning up his tyres a little bit. All of these drivers having to go through that puddle. And if this rain gets any worse, that puddle is going to catch him out. You can see them trying to weave to avoid any standing surface water that they can. So far, most of the drivers seem to have settled into the rhythm of this course. A few mistakes being made in the same old places. However, Damobi, look at that, over 10 seconds gap now to the second place of him as he enters the final lap. Let's jump into the cockpit with Damobi on what has been a pretty much flawless, apart from his start, which he looked to bog down just a little bit. I'm sure he'll correct me if I'm wrong when he returns to the paddock, but it did look as though he bogged down off the start. Ever since then, as soon as he got past Kay Morse in his BMW, it's been a pretty faultless run. Kay Morse, unfortunately, looks as though he's had another spin. That's put him right down to the back of the pack. We saw him making up those positions, fighting with Bobby Dazzler for sixth place. Looks as though he's lost out on that one. So Damobi reaches the halfway point. Just 6 corners separate him and another race victory to add to his current one of the season. Also had one podium of the season, missed out narrowly in a couple of races. I think it's safe to say he should really be on 3 podiums for this time, for this point of the season, and this will be his 4th, and it will be topping it. Instead, this is going to be his 2nd win and his 2nd podium of the season. Just 2 more corners to go. Let's join him trackside and then we'll get stuck into the rest of the action behind him. Stealth Sheep looks as though he's currently being challenged a little bit by Uniclark. In fact, it looks as though Stealth Sheep has potentially run a little bit wide as we see his pace just falling away there. That Qatar dude back into the lobby, so he's going to be joining us for the feature race for tonight. But the first race in the sprint goes to Demobi. Great victory from him. We've then got Stealth Sheep. He's trying to make sure that this car gets all the way across the finish line. I think it's going to be enough as we see Lightblade there getting all sorts of sloppy with Lecky as well. Very tail happy at the end. So Stealth Sheep takes second place. Uniclark in a very close fourth, third. Lightblade ends up doing enough for fourth place and Lecky in fifth. Big improvement there for Lecky. That'll help his point tally for the season after a couple of DNS due to disconnections. Looks as though Bobby Dazzler is coming around the final corner now. That's going to be sixth place to him so long as he can keep it on the straight and narrow. And he is indeed. Lion's Foot sat around about 4 seconds behind him for seventh place as we see Evan there. It looks as though he's gone into the kitty litter. Is he going to get it back on track in time? Let's follow his car around. It does look as though he's home safe and dry. Trotty was coming up right behind him. Kov Karl still struggling to get that number 19 turquoise and white liveried Renault Megane around the track. Valiant effort from him. That's going to be enough for 10th place. And K Morse is soon to limp that car home after a few misdemeanors in terms of keeping his car on the track. And it's 11th place for him. So, as we run through the final finishing order, of course, no penalties to be applied. Demobi takes the top spot with Stealth Sheep in second. Uniclark does enough for third above Lightblade, who was closely fought in the end by Lecky. Bobby Dazzler ends up with a good finishing position to land him in sixth. And Lion's Foot, I'm sure, will be happy for a seventh place. As will Evan, currently sat in eighth, with Tro in ninth and Kov Karl in 10th. K Morse, unfortunate for him, after a great start, he finds himself at the back of the grid by the end of the sprint race for 11th position. So folks, as mentioned earlier, we are going to jump into another 10 minutes of practice once the lobby's been set up by the league coordinator. That'll give you enough time to stick the kettle on, go and relieve yourselves, let your blood pressure calm down a little bit after what was an absolutely frantic sprint in tonight's. So with 4 minutes 30 remaining in the session, looks as though Demobi is practicing his pit entries. Of course, folks, there will be a mandatory pit stop for tonight's feature, as always, in the RRTCC. Demobi currently topping out the table with a 146.4. Got Lightblade just behind him, around about 6.5 tenths behind him, actually. In second place in this practice session, Bobby Dazzler looking right on the pace at the moment of Lightblade. Noticing a lot less in terms of standing water here on track, so that's going to give these guys a lot more opportunity to keep it on the black stuff away from the green stuff. Quickly following Tro around the course. He's not quite got his eye in yet. I think potentially on an outlap, 6.5 seconds off the pace. And you'll see there on the info feed, we are getting track limit breaches. Remember, Race Director is turned on for track limits again. These guys are going to have penalties and slowdowns. We'll try and keep on top of all of that action when we get underway with the race. That looks like it might be the black and yellow car of Lecky now leaving the pits. As with K Morse, he's about to come out on track. Let's have a look at Lecky as he tries to get any heat that he can into those tyres. He's going to struggle in this sort of wet weather. Coming for an interesting line there. See how K Morse is doing inside that BMW. We saw him struggle in the later part of the sprint race. How's he going to get in the feature with a little less standing water, so that BMW take full advantage of its getaway from the line? Can he achieve that again? 2 minutes, will be entering the second qualification of the evening. We'll have to wait and see where he lands himself on track to try and fight for that position. If he can get himself in and around the front row, you might want to try and bet that he's going to take an early lead and try and gain upon that. Good to see that guitar dude back in the lobby as well. Hopefully his connection will stick around for keep him inside this race. We do hate to see any DNFs, especially down to connection. See there, K Morse absolutely T-boning that BMW. I want to make sure that you avoid any of that during the race. That's going to be a whole lot of damage repairs should he have them selected for his pit stop. Final 40 seconds of this session, and then we'll be trying to get this underway. Most of our drivers now sat in the pit. We've got Lionsfoot still out on track with Kofkarl. Kofkarl having a great race until it seemed he got into a little bit of a scuffle. That found him dropping down the pack, potentially with a bit of damage as well. And that damage just got worse and worse as the race progressed. We did see great pace from him though, and it looks as though he's got enough pace as well to be challenging the top 5 when it comes to the qualification session. So we look Lionsfoot now practicing his pit entry. Automatic pit entry disabled for all of the Rubbins Racing Championships. Leave it upon our drivers to make their own way in. You will get a substantial time penalty added if you are caught speeding in the pit lane. All drivers will be looking to avoid that, of course. Evan, the last guy out on track at the moment, I think. We've got that guitar dude just come across. See, he's called it a day there. So we will be entering the qualification round now for tonight's feature race. Is it going to be Demobi leading out the charge in the feature? Or are we going to have Lightblade or Bobby Dazzler, Stealth Sheep, potentially even Kofkarl as well, challenging for that pole position? As I mentioned, week in, week out, bonus points for pole position and a bonus point for the fastest lap, as we see. But I don't know whether or not that was my game glitching, but we saw Bobby Dazzler eating the wall there. Inside the pit lane, we'll have to wait and see. Can't see any damage. I think it might have just been a little bit of a glitch coming from my stream. Enable the map once again as we have got wet conditions. Let's try and find out who's currently leading out the charge here. It is K Morse in that BMW. He's going to be the first one to set a lap in the second qualification session. You see Lecky sat in the pits at the moment. Looks as though he's just about to leave though, as we see him now entering the track. Demobi not far away from K Moore, so the two guys are going to be setting the first laps of this session. Got a train of cars leading behind them. Here we go, folks. Tonight's feature race qualification underway. K Morse is going to be doing the first lap around. I'll keep you posted as ever with the sector times as they come in. Try and let you know who's currently leading the chances of this pole position. K-Morse looks as though he's got that car dialed in at the moment, handling these wet conditions much better, although it did look as though he's just cut a little bit too much off that corner. Wonder whether or not the race director's going to force him to slow down on that one. I can't see any indication that it has. So it looks as though he's good to go. K-Morse setting a 30.559 Sector 1. Uniclark is currently leading it though with a 30.398, and Lightblade has just bettered it straight away with a 30.194. So most of the lads, apart from Stealth Sheep, currently within the 30-second range. Looks as though Lionsfoot is struggling a little bit, a couple of tenths off the slower end of the 30.9 of Evan. Lightblade looking to be the one to watch in this first hot lap of this feature race qualification session. We are, though, at the moment tracking K Morse, who's not too far off the pace of the rest of the drivers. Half a second off the purple sector set by Lightblade. As we see Bobby Dazzler now going purple in Sector 2, and that's currently being held up against all of the rest of the drivers. So Bobby Dazzler looks as though he's gotten used to this course. And I actually think we're going to see Bobby Dazzler leading it out so far. So K Morse, as he crosses the line, goes first. Let's keep an eye out on Demobi's time. That's enough for first place from him. Let's have a look at Bobby Dazzler, though, because he is on for a great lap here. I think we're about to see him jump into the provisional pole spot. It's not. It's enough for third place, and then straight back down for fourth. So Lightblade leading out the charge so far. Just over half of this session remaining. Looks as though Lecky isn't going to be setting a quick lap this time around. Not according to my telemetry anyway. Looks as though his first Sector 1 is a 1 minute and 8 seconds. Whether or not that's a glitch, I'm not too sure. Bobby Dazzler, though, as we see on the screen, going green in Sector 1. So an improvement from him. Let's see whether or not he's going to be able to improve by the end of the lap. As we can see, the difference between Lightblade and Demobi at the moment, last time around, is 3 1/4 tenths. So all the way through all of the sessions, there's been next to nothing between these two. Demobi proving himself as a bit of a wet weather specialist. But the only mistake I've managed to see him make so far today was in that last practice session where he just missed out on one of the apexes. Ended up running a little bit wide, but that's where it doesn't count. Let's see what he can pull out when it does. Plenty of support for Evan tonight. Well-loved member of the community and one of our most recent additions to the RR staff team. Great to have him on board. Passionate guy in terms of his sim racing and his real world racing. Loves to take a banger out, smash it into some other people. So obviously not afraid to roll up his sleeves and get his hands dirty on the track. So Lightblade still topping it out on this one with a 1:45.61. 3 3/4 minutes remaining of the session, so not much time for these guys to try and make a marked improvement. Lecky, though, is going to improve this time around. It's not going to be enough to challenge the top spot, though. I think he's getting himself into all sorts of bother. He's currently sat around about 11 seconds off the Sector 1 purple times. Hopefully he's going to be able to get it together in the remaining couple of laps in this session. However, we can see him there wimbling around into the grass, I think waiting for the rest of the traffic to move along by whilst they're on a hot lap. It's what we like to see. Good track etiquette from our mod here. Returns back onto track now that the traffic's cleared, and he'll put the pedal down, hoping to try and get another couple of laps in before that timer runs down to 0. Sector time's starting to drop off a little bit now. I wonder whether or not the conditions are just getting a little bit worse for these guys. I think, as Jack pointed out earlier, setting the early lap inside the qualification is going to be key to this one, and so far it's Lightblade leading that charge. Demobi we see him returning to the pits, potentially for a couple of adjustments in the remaining 2.5 minutes of the session. K Morse also doing the same, and Bobby Dazzler looks as though he's just entering the pits as well. K Morse now coming out of the pits as we see Lion's Foot there getting wide in the final corner. Let's have a look at Stealth Sheep. Disappointing qualification for him so far. Currently sat in 7th. Expecting improvement from him. Looks as though he made a mistake into Sector 1 that last time around. Here he is now on for another one. He's got 1 minute 50 seconds, so potentially another couple of laps available to Stealth Sheep this one, and I think he's going to end up crossing the line provided he doesn't make any large mistakes to allow him for one final bite of the cherry. We saw him do it last time just to try and knock Lightblade off that second position spot, leapfrogging him, getting himself onto the front row. Is he going to be able to do it again? See, Demobi is still in the pits. I think Demobi is settling for second place here. He's not going to be able to get out in time to do a hot lap. Bobby Dazzler also doing the same. And it looks as though Uniclark as well. Uniclark having a great race inside the sprint. Doesn't look as though he's going to be qualifying inside the top 5 in this feature, as we see K Morse there moving aside there for Stealth Sheep. Stealth Sheep getting a little bit untidy. Mid-apex there. Struggling to get the power down. Let's have a look at his sectors. 30.8 at the moment. So that's not a bad sector in terms of the current pace, but in terms of the purple, he's a little bit off the mark. But, I mean, we can see here from 1st to 8th place, we're looking at less than a second in terms of these qualifying. So now that the weather conditions have improved, the entire grid coming a lot closer, and that is what defines the Rubbins Racing Touring Car Championship. Generally an entire grid very close in competitive lap times. It's usually just about the concentration and any on-track action. Lightblade ends up securing the top spot though, as we see Stealth Sheep crossing the line with no improvement. He has got enough time for one more lap though, as we have got 7 more cars out on track able to set another lap. Let's try and have a look at who's at the front of this pack. Excuse me for flying through them. It looks as though Trobe is going to be the first one to set that final lap time. As we see Evan crosses the line, no improvement from him. He's going to have to settle for 11th place. Unless Trobe can make an improvement this time around. Trobe is looking white in all the sectors, so not a vast improvement. However, if he can get it together in Sector 3, we might see him able to make up a couple of places. Currently sat 3.9 seconds away from the leader, so I think Evan, potentially even Lecky, is at risk here with a good Sector 3 from Tro. So absolutely nailing that final corner. He's about to cross the line. Are we going to see an improvement? No improvement, unfortunately, from Tro. Not in terms of grid position. It was around about 8 tenths quicker, though. Let's have a look who we've got next. Excuse me for flying through. Looks as though Lionsfoot is the next one that's going to be crossing the line. Lionsfoot on for quite a good lap. I don't think it's going to be an improvement. No green sectors from him. Let's see what happens as he crosses. So no improvement from Lionsfoot. Lecky's the next in line. Lecky has had a green sector 1. White in sector 2, and it's an improvement, but not in terms of his grid position, and that closes up the lineup for tonight's feature. So just to run through it, Lightblade gets that pole position and that bonus point with Demobi in second. Demobi there only setting 2 laps in that qualification session. He ends up making up the front row. K Morse and Bobby Dazzler sit themselves in the second row, with that Qatar Dude and Cov Carl making up the third. Stealth Sheep and Uniclark sat in the fourth row, with Lionsfoot and Lecky alongside him in the fifth. Sixth row is made up of Evan and Tro, and this will be the running order for tonight's 16-lap feature race. Remember, ladies and gents, track limits are enabled, and a mandatory pit stop has been enabled also. So these guys will be coming in. I'll try and keep track of when the guys make the pits, so we know who's left to do it. Let me know your predictions. I know at the moment Evan's getting plenty of support on there, and Jack saying fair play to Lightblade. I did think that Demobi would dominate after his race 1 performance. However, I think consistency is going to be the key here. If Lightblade can keep it on the black stuff in these slightly improved conditions, I think he's definitely in with a shout to try and challenge our Bavarian Demobi. A couple of minutes to get the setups finely tuned, get these cars fueled up for the 16 laps that they've got ahead of them. Set those tyre pressures as well, so that when they come into the pits they don't end up having to adjust the driving style with altered tyre pressures. Seconds remaining before we're going to get the lights here at Zuhai International. Started out with thunderstorms, it's eased off to rain, however you can see those flags moving in the background, plenty of wind to speak of. And here come the lights. How's it going to start here in tonight's feature? They're underway and it looks to be a good start from Lecky. Unable to see, but there is that BMW of K Morse. Straight through the middle, straight in front in time for turn 1. He's got himself away clean, as is the rest of the pack, but they are quite bunched up. Let's have a look at the rest of the order. It didn't look as though we've had any major incidents. All 12 cars there able to get past. Uniclark looks as though he's lost a position to that Qatar Dude. Let's have a look at the battle for the first position at the moment. We've got K Morse leading out on Demobi with Lightblade, as we see K Morse there straight off on that tricky turn 3. Where's it going to leave him? Looks as though he's going to re-enter the track in 8th position. In fact, he's still losing time just in terms of his momentum. Looks as though he's settling into 10th. We'll keep an eye out on that. Expect some improvements. See Bobby Dazzler there, then a little bit wide. That might well be a slowdown from the race director. We'll have to wait and see. So Demobi leads the charge with Lightblade now in second place. That Qatar Dude moving up the inside in that last corner on Bobby Dazzler, and he's made it stick. So Bobby Dazzler resigned down to 4th place with Uniclark in 5th, and Lecky looking there in the background up the inside, thinks better of it in 6th position. Let's jump into the chase cam, see if we can get a good view of the action in front. I don't think we can, there is just too much spray. We'll jump in with Uniclark, follow him in chase, and we've got a good view there of the top 5 as Uniclark makes his moves up the inside of Bobby Dazzler. He is of course going to be on the outside for the next turn. Is he going to switch over to the inside, or is he just going to maintain that inside line into the braking? He's not, he's going to fall in line, hopefully trying to get a slipstream down the start finish straight. Jump back into trackside as we get a good view of pretty much the entire field. Coming around the final corner, looks as though Stealth Sheep found himself in last position. He's going to be first one to pit here. As we see, there's a car stopped on track. Looks as though it's Uniclark. He gets punted a couple of times. That's going to cause all sorts of grief. I think it was it Kovkar maybe that hit him in the rear? I'm not too sure. Don't know what happened to Uniclark there. It appeared as though he just stopped dead on track, and I'm guessing that that's going to be some rear and potentially front end damage to that blue and white livery car of Uniclark. He was doing so well as well. He finds himself now in 11th position, potentially with a lot of damage. We'll have to wait and see if we get any word on what happened there on the comms. Let's have a look. Further up the field though, we've got that guitar dude trying to take that place back from Bobby Dazzler at the moment. Plenty of action down the field as well. Nothing between Evan and Lionsfoot at the moment. These two always close to each other, no matter whether or not they're racing in a championship or just inside the community races. As we see there, Bobby Dazzler getting a little bit wide. That guitar dude jumping all over it like a tramp on chips, as we say, and he's going to try and take that position around the inside next time, is he? Yeah, he has a little look. He's going to back away from that one though. I don't think it's worth the effort or the risk of getting your car caught up in between the other one, spinning out, especially when the field is so close behind you. So tracking round with Kovkar now, who's trying to get himself alongside Lecky, Lionsfoot and Evan. Evan currently sat in 5th position. He'll be trying to everything that he can, as we see Lecky decide that now is the time to make that pit stop. Lecky into the pits, I think. And it now confirms it. Lecky in for the pits, so Evan still battling for 5th. He's managed to make up a little bit of time ahead of Lionsfoot now, but Kovkar and K Morse fighting out tooth and nail, side by side into turn 1. Let's have a look. This is the corner I think that K Morse has been struggling with all night long. How's he going to cope with K Morse in front of him? K Morse breezes ahead. I beg your pardon, it's the corner afterwards. Let's see whether or not he's managed to get the better of it. Looks as though he's kept it on the straight and narrow this time around, but Kovkar made up the position and he's made it stick as well. A little bit further down the line, it looks as though we've got Tro and Uniclark. Tro makes a move around the outside, makes it stick as well there. So Tro ends up taking 9th position away from Uniclark. Up front though, it looks as though we've had a battle between Demobi and Lightblade. Lightblade getting the better of Demobi, and Demobi slipping away. Only a few hundredths, but it looks as though he lost a little bit of momentum. I'm suspecting uncharacteristic mistake there from Demobi. Can he get it hooked back up? We are, of course, only on lap 3 of 16, so plenty of racing to go. That guitar dude is got a little bit of space as well between the 4th place of Bobby Dazzler. He's made up around about a second or so as we see Demobi deciding to jump into the pit. So that's Demobi making his mandatory pit stop. Lightblade now can lead the charge and try and make up as much of a gap as he can to the 2nd place of that guitar dude. Currently sat at 3.7 seconds, and it's growing quite quickly as well. Get back to the action. In fact, looks as though got some action in 4th place. Evan now being challenged by Kovkar. Kovkar with bags of pace. Kovkar currently lapping around about a second, just shy of a second, quicker than Evan. Evan will be desperate to try and hold on to that track position though, hoping to try and get his best finish in the RRTCC this season around. Of course, he's got plenty to do with a pit stop remaining, but any gains that he can make now will serve him later on after he makes that pit stop, I'm sure of it. Uniclark as well has also made his pit stop, in case you guys missed that. So Uniclark is now pitted. Currently following these guys around. Let's jump into the chase cam of Lionsfoot, see if we can get a good view of these three battling it out. Currently for 4th position, as we see Kovkar there getting a little bit wide. That's going to open the door in the next couple of turns to Lionsfoot, so long as he can keep his power down and keep his line. as he wants it. And you can see there as well the rear of Bobby Dazzler's car sat in third place, not too far away from these guys. It actually equates to around about 4 seconds. But as we've seen, mistakes can cost you dearly, especially in these wet conditions. Currently light rain here at the Zuhai International Circuit. There are possibilities that it is going to get a little bit worse. However, Carl decides that now is the time to come into the pits. He hopes to try and get himself out into a little bit of clean air. We'll have to wait and see where it lands in. He may come out ahead of Stealth Sheep. It depends how much damage he's got to repair. That car looked clean as a whistle. And if he's got the classic 2 engine damage, he'll be out in no time. Let's have a look actually, as it looks as though he's now cleared to leave the pit, so a pretty quick pit stop from Carl. However, his car doesn't look to be getting away. I wonder what's happened here. I think that is my view glitched, as I can hear pit guns going away. Not sure what's happened to Carl. I think he's getting some damage repairs. And it's cost him dearly. He's slipping down and down the pack. Currently sat in last as we hear his engines revving. He's finally underway. So Carl with a lot to do. I think his pit crew letting him down a little bit there. Lightblade is currently leading this race though with 3.3 seconds yet to make his pit stop. That guitar dude in second. Also yet to make a pit stop, as is Bobby Dazzler, Evan Lionsfoot. So currently, Demobi sat in 6th place, was the first one to pit. He's nearly 17 seconds behind the leader. I think any pit stop is going to be a lot longer than 17 seconds. So Demobi looks as though he chose the right time to come into the pits in terms of his race strategy. We'll have to wait and see how Lightblade plays this one out though. Let's have a look at the battle for 4th place. Jump back into our trackside view. The good old boys of Evan and Lionsfoot currently battling it out for 4th. Looks as though Evan has found some pace. In fact, both of them come into the pits at the same time. So we'll keep an eye out on this, see how long they get in, as we see Evan there having a fight with a pit marker and winning that one. So that guitar dude has also made his mandatory pit stop. So it's just Lightblade and Bobby Dazzler now to pit. And it looks as though Lionsfoot had an absolutely mammoth pit stop there, straight in and straight out, so he gets ahead of Evan. In fact, I'm getting reports on the radio, it was 0.8 of a second, so there, ladies and gents, is what 2 engine damage will do when you come into your pits. Straight in, straight out, and Evan is going to be fuming about that after holding around about 2/10 above Lionsfoot. Lionsfoot gets out ahead, and he's currently ahead of Stealth Sheep as well. So potentially a good finishing position here for Lionsfoot, the lead coordinator. We have of course got Lightblade and Bobby yet to pit. So let's follow this battle. Currently for 6th place, potentially for 4th place once the 2 leaders come in. I mean, these 2 guys, 6th and 7th, currently sat around about 24 seconds or so behind the leaders. So if 1st and 2nd place get a good pit stop, they may well come out with plenty of space in front of Lionsfoot and Stealth Sheep. Stealth Sheep will look to try and find more pace. In fact, his pace is good last time around, a 148.061. That was the best of anybody in the last lap. Except for Demobi, I do beg your pardon, he's just gone and set a 147, dead almost. So Demobi now finding his pace as we see Lightblade into the pits, as is Bobby Dazzler. So that is our field now, all into the pits, ladies and gents, and Demobi is leading this one. Let's keep an eye out on him and look for anybody leaving their pit crew. Don't think we're going to be able to see it until we go around the corner. In fact, it looks as though Lightblade is now about to leave the pits, but that's going to leave him out in 4th position. Potentially even worse, because here comes Lionsfoot. Is Lionsfoot going to be able to maintain that speed? Stealth Sheep's having a little look up the inside of Lionsfoot as well. Whether or not he's going to be able to get it to stick, let's see in the second phase of it as they come together. Exchanging paint there between Lionsfoot and Stealth Sheep. Stealth Sheep getting the better of it. Stealth Sheep ends up taking 5th position. So Lightblade there, lucky to get away from all of that action. But he does run wide. That is potentially going to be a slowdown penalty. We'll have to wait and see what the race director puts up. Let's have a look at the timing boards. No penalties given at the moment by the race director, so obviously the slackened rules in full effect. All these guys are obeying all of the slowdowns if they're getting them. You see Stealth Sheep there, bogging down a little bit, scrubbing off his speed. That's going to leave the door open to Lion's Foot. Is Lion's Foot going to have a look up the outside? He's switching around, putting his car in the position. He goes for a look up the inside, under braking. He's not going to get that one done though. I think having to back out a bit to make sure that he didn't make any connection with Stealth Sheep. Interesting though, ladies and gents, Demobi has now pulled out 5.5 seconds worth of lead to the second place of that guitar dude. Tro finds himself in third. In fact, I beg your pardon, Tro is yet to pit. And Tro's lap times as well. There we go. We see him now entering the pits. Potentially hearing me, giving him a kick up the arse to get himself into the pit lane halfway through the race. Lap 8 of 16. And now I believe I'm right in saying that all drivers have made their pit stop. If I'm wrong, please do correct me. Let's rejoin the battle for 4th position. Stealth Sheep's currently leading it. In fact, Stealth Sheep is trying to get alongside the back of Lightblade, and he's getting a little bit closer with every lap that passes. Lion's Foot trying to keep up with Stealth Sheep, and he's doing a bloody good job at it as well. He's only sat a second behind, but you can see the distance there. It's only around about 75 yards or so behind Stealth Sheep, the current championship leader before tonight's sprint race. I do believe that that's going to be a little bit mixed up though after Demobi's win and pole position. Look a little bit further down the running order. We've got K Morse currently being challenged by Uniclark. Not much between these. K Morse once again unfortunately getting himself on the wrong side of the track due to that tail happy BMW, and it looks as though he's at risk of losing a position here as we see Uniclark able to get that power down easy, but as soon as K Morse gets traction, he does pull away from the blue and white livery car of Uniclark. I think it's just initially getting the power through that rear axle in that BMW that seems to be the problem. Too much and it oversteers, spitting him out into the grass. Too little and you leave yourself open to the front wheel drive attack. His front wheel drive is able to pump the throttle to regain traction. So you see there in the foreground, Lecky currently sat in 8th place. Haven't seen much of him through this one. He's kept himself out of most of the action. However, we have got a little bit of action coming up here between 6th and 7th. Looks as though Bobby Dazzler has just taken the place away from Lion's Foot, and that's left him at risk of Lecky, who's on a charge here against Lion's Foot. Lion's Foot potentially getting a slowdown. I'm not too sure. The speed differential seems to be absolutely huge there between them. But Lecky's now got himself in with a shot with it. It seems as though it was a mistake by Lion's Foot, just hearing it over the radio. So now Lecky looking to try and work his way up the leaderboard as we see Lion's Foot running wide. That's going to give the place over to him. Lecky makes his way up into 7th place. Consistency is paying off for Lecky here today. Let's look a little bit further down the order. Looks as though K Morse is coming under increased pressure now from Uniclark. Uniclark just looking for the opportunity that he needs to try and take that position away from him. K Morse keeping up with the defensive drive though for now, doing all he can to maintain track position. Running down the order, Demobi's currently got an 8-second lead ahead of that retarded, who in turn has got around about 8 seconds to the 3rd place of Lightblade. You see this cat and mouse battle between K Morse and Uniclark. Really hot bit of action running up as we see Uniclark now moving to the outside. Potential for the undercut. Is he going to run deep? Try and cut up that inside. He's having a look for it. He has got a second apex to deal with. So he decides to keep it around the outside, try and maintain that inside line for the next corner. It looks as though he's going to get the move done as well. Clark finally passed Kay Morse in this battle, but Kay Morse is right back on it, late on the brakes there to make his way up. So fantastic battle between these two cars. Lap 10 now of 16, 6 laps remaining in this race. And first, second and third looking pretty comfortable, but other than that, these positions could change any which way. So Evan looks as though he's now defending from Bobby Dazzler for 5th place. It's been a great race from Evan as we see him there just running, holding a little bit too much speed, runs onto the grass. That's going to give it over to him. Do apologise if that's the commentator's curse, Evan. You can bring that up with me later on, but he's run a really good race. He's now, though, going to come under the attack of Lecky in that black and yellow liveried Megane. As we see a little bit of a lock up there, loses momentum, and that's Lecky right up his chuff, trying to do all he can. He keeps it behind him. Is he going to have a look up the inside? Looks as though Evan blocks off the inside. Lecky has a little look around the outside. Thinks better of it though, falls back in line. As we see Lionsfoot making moves. We've got a battle here between Lionsfoot and Clark. In fact, Lionsfoot ends up running wide again. That allows Clark and Kay Morse to pass through. So let's jump back to the action between Lecky and Evan. Jump into the chase cam for this one, I think. This action's really close. We've got Bobby Dazzler right ahead as well, so Evans managed to maintain his pace with that. Clark, interestingly enough, last time around setting the fastest lap through laps 10 and 11. So Clark looking for paces. We see Lecky now making a move up out of the slipstream, up the inside. Is he going to do both of them? It looks as though he's going to be able to do Bobby Dazzler as well and take 5th place, so long as he can hold on to his brakes. We get lots of lock up there, I think. A little bit too keen on the brakes, almost takes both of the drivers out. You see him flashing his lights in apology there to Bobby Dazzler. You heard the revs drop out. It seemed as though the wheels just locked up. And now Lecky's going to come under pressure from Clark if he's not careful. Moves back over to the racing line. And Bobby Dazzler runs a little bit wide ahead of him. A little bit of understeer from him. And that could put him at risk of both Lecky and Clark. We'll have to wait and see how this one progresses. Lecky having a look up the inside. Better under brakes this time around though. Switches back over to the outside. But he is going to have to defend from Clark. Clark holding on to the inside line. Looks as though Clark's challenging. Lecky's got the inside. Next corner round though. And he's good under the brakes, so it's all going to be the drag to the next corner. Yeah, looks as though it's advantage Lecky in that battle for 7th place this time around. We'll wait and see how this one progresses. Fantastic battling though, really, between 5th and 8th place throughout all of this race. It's changed hands so many times. As we see Bobby Dazzler going wide, that's going to allow Lecky through. Is it also going to allow Clark through? He's definitely a risk. I think Bobby Dazzler is just going to be able to hold on to this one because of the inside line. No, he's not. Clark ends up making that pass, so mistake from Bobby Dazzler costs him 2 positions. And that is pretty much how it's been in this mid-pack battle all the way through, as we see Bobby Dazzler getting super wide, manages to keep his car onto the track without spinning it. Seen that a couple of times, but we can see now Lecky on the back of Evan. So Evan's 5th place being challenged once again. He's got to be thinking to himself, what have I got to do to try and get within the top 5 by the end of this race? We are on lap 12 of 16. Lecky there getting a little bit too oversteery, scrubbing off speed as we see him struggling for grip. Manages to maintain it, but we see Evan running wide. That's potentially going to be a slowdown. We'll have to wait and see. In fact, let's bring it up. No penalties to speak of so far through this race, so I think the race director definitely lenient in terms of breaches of track limits. Lecky though now having a little look up the inside, has to double brake to make sure that he doesn't make contact with the 5th place of Evan. And that's going to allow Clark to challenge for it. Looks as though Lecky's got the power down all right. He goes defensive on his line, moves back over to make sure that he can take this tricky left. All drivers look as though they're through pretty clean. Worth noting, Demobi now with over 10 seconds lead to that Qatar dude. That Qatar dude's had a great race really throughout all of this. Lightblade finds himself in third, around about 7 seconds away from second. And then we've got Stealth Sheep, only 3 seconds behind Lightblade. So looking at the laps last time around, Stealth Sheep is lapping a little bit quicker than Lightblade. In fact, Lightblade's just set a new lap equaling Stealth Sheep. So obviously feeling the pressure, puts the hammer down as we see Evan making a mistake. That's going to allow Lecky through. Is it also going to allow Uniclark through? I think it is. Evan drops down to 7th place and he's now going to come under pressure from Bobby Dazzler, who's sat in 8th at the moment. He is carrying more speed though, I think. No, Evan is safe in 7th at the moment. Lecky though now up into 5th. Consistency paying off for that black and yellow car of Lecky. You see him there making a couple of adjustments through his car, so I think grip is well, he's definitely struggling for grip. It seems under braking, to be honest. Maybe just having to brake extra hard to keep the rest of these drivers at bay, and we see a move there up from Uniclark around the outside. They come alongside each other, but Lecky gets the advantage. He's going to move over to the left now for this right-hander, blocking that line of Uniclark. Uniclark falls back in line, has a look around the outside to cut himself in, but Lecky wise to it. Evan looks as though he's found a little bit of momentum again, and he's going to get alongside the back of Uniclark pretty shortly if he keeps it up. So Demobi, last time around, the only driver managing to get below a 149. These drivers are certainly struggling in these increased wet conditions. We do have 2 laps remaining though. Demobi now on lap 14 of 16. 13 seconds now between him and the second place of that Qatar dude. That Qatar dude has lost a little bit of his advantage though to Lightblade. Lightblade able to get the power down as we see Evan there wide on the final turn. He's managed to get himself back on track though. Don't think it's cost him too much apart from his battle for 6th place. Looks as though that's now over unless we see any mistakes by Lecky or Uniclark. Let's have a look. A little bit further down the order, Bobby Dazzler on his battle for Evan. In fact, he's getting ever closer to Evan. Less than a second separates them at the moment. We'll have to wait and see what the next few corners throw up. Keep an eye out for the difference between 5th and 6th place though. That's likely to change with any mistakes being made. It's currently sat at less than half a second. In fact, it looks as though, switching back over to it, Uniclark is on the charge here. Lecky's going to have to defend once again as both of them run ever so slightly wide, managing to keep just their inside tyres on track. Looking over to my map, looks as though our race leader is just coming around the final corner for his about to cross the start-finish line for the penultimate lap of this 16-lap feature race. Demobi looking to secure a 1-2. And Demobi is also on for a fastest lap for that extra bonus point. Demobi's lap in this race currently set at a 147.002. All the rest of the drivers, apart from Lightblade and Uniclark, inside the 148s or worse than that. So I don't think that's going to be improved upon throughout this session. So it looks as though at least that bonus point is safe for Demobi. And every point will count in the battle for this Touring Car Championship this season, as we see Uniclark there moving up the inside of Lecky, makes that one stick. Nothing Lecky can do there. He's a bit of a sitting duck. He is looking up the inside though to try and battle that one. He's going to have the inside line again for the next corner. We'll have to wait and see. It looks as though he's going to get his nose ahead. Both drivers, Uniclark just able to get through the corner safely. Fantastic wheel-to-wheel action from Uniclark and Lecky throughout this race, giving us plenty of action as we see Evan as well, also in the background. That'll be a good finish from him for 7th place if he can keep it. Carl unfortunately looks as though he's had a stinker, currently sat in 12th position. He saw a bit of damage causing him to fall down the order. It's a shame as well, his pace has been good in qualification and the practice sessions, unable to get it hooked together in terms of the race. See Lecky there taking a chance on that puddle. It's one of the only puddles that we've seen in this session forming up on the outside line, except there is another one, I beg your pardon. So Demobi is now on his final lap. He's just crossed the start-finish line. We are on the final lap of the race for Demobi. He is 15 seconds clear of the 2nd place of that guitar dude, who, since he's got behind Demobi, has just been home clear in terms of his podium position. Lightblade's actually got it pretty much secure as well, with 5 seconds lead ahead of Stealth Sheep in 4th position. So Stealth Sheep might well see his championship lead vanish after this 3rd race of the season. Let's jump back to the action as Lionsfoot now looks to be challenged by K Morse. K Morse looking to make up as many points as he can after a few disappointing mishaps from him inside that BMW, struggling inside these wet conditions, and I don't blame him as well. It's a hard enough car to drive in the dry, let alone inside the wet. You see him there having a little look, moving towards the inside, opting for the wet line to try and take the inside of the next corner. He falls back in line, though, under braking, doesn't want to risk it. Let's have a look in this battle between Lecky and Uniclark. Uniclark still holding the advantage over this, but Lecky doing everything that he can to try and get into that 5th place position. As my map appears to have crashed, let me bring this one up. Looks as though Demobi is about to come over to the final corner, final 2 corners of this track. Race victory has looked to be secure since Lightblade made his mandatory pit stop. However, now it is official, back-to-back wins for Demobi. That's going to do his championship standings the world of good. That guitar dude is also looking to be unchallenged by Lightblade. Around about 4 seconds gap between those two as he comes around the final bend. Great race from that guitar dude to get himself up into the middle of the podium. Lightblade also had a good race considering his pit strategy let him down ever so slightly. He did find himself in amongst some traffic. He's managed to navigate that through that just fine and enough for 3rd place. Stealth Sheep, he did well to move up the order, but it is only 4th for him as we see Lecky there getting super wide as he pushes Uniclark as hard as he can, but he's going to have to settle for 6th position. Evan is also about to cross the start-finish line for a very well-deserved 7th position. He'll be a little bit disappointed that he couldn't hold on to 5th, but he did very well in those battles as we see Bobby Dazzler there celebrating him crossing the line for an 8th position. Lionsfoot looks to get the better of K Morse, and that's going to leave Tro in 11th and Kov Karl in 12th position. So as the final driver crosses the line, we're about to get our official race results. No penalties issued throughout that race, I don't believe. Yep, these are our official race results. Demobi topping the charts with that one. That guitar dude ends up in 2nd place. A good race from our top 3. Stealth Sheep does enough for 4th position with Uniclark in 5th. In an amazing battle between him, Lecky, Evan and Bobby Dazzler throughout most of that race. Lionsfoot does enough to secure 9th place above K Morse, and then Tro and Kov Karl finish up the running order in tonight's feature. So, of course, we will be back once again on Thursday for our Thursday Night Lights event. We will like to see you as well on Friday for the Ginetta GT5s. And then, of course, the ever-popular GT3 Championship broadcast live at 8 o'clock UK time on Sunday. Once again, if you're new to us tonight and you'd like to know more about what we do here at Rubbins Racing, head on over to www.rubbinsracing.co.uk. If you race Project Cars 2 on the PlayStation 4, or you just want to be part of a Project Cars 2 community to try and get your times up or join in a little bit of fun, you'll find all of the information on how you can join this fantastic clean racing community on the website. Alternatively, add Rubbins Racing as a PSN friend, and you'll also find plenty of details there. I've been your commentator for this evening. My name's Murphy, and I will see you once again on Sunday for the GT3 Championships. Other than that, join us on Thursday for the Thursday Night Lights. Like and subscribe if you haven't done to make sure that you don't miss any of the action. That's all from me, and I'll see you once again next time. Take care and have a good evening.